The president's budget chief, Russ Vought, is executing today on the administration's threat to lay off federal employees over the government shutdown. A spokesperson tells CNN that the layoffs will be, quote, substantial. Vought posted this on the 10th day of the shutdown. Quote, the RIFs have begun. RIF stands for reduction in force. It's not immediately clear how many federal workers have received RIF notices. Vought's post coming a day after the president made this promise during a cabinet meeting.
We'll be making cuts that will be permanent, and we're only going to cut Democrat programs. They wanted to do this, so we'll give them a little taste of their own medicine.
All right, joining me now to discuss, Republican Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. He sits on the House Financial Services and Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman, always great to see you. Thanks very much for being here. Do you want to see
Thanks for having me.
Russ Vought and the Trump administration lay off high numbers of federal employees?
No, I don't want to see that at all. But this is also why I've been opposed to the Schumer shutdown. And why, regardless of who the president has been, I have always pushed back against those who try to shut the government down. It is idiotic. And all it does is create chaos and uncertainty, and it harms the American people. You have federal workers who are going without pay. Our military is not going to be paid effective the 15th of this month. Border Patrol agents, you have obviously concern about funding for critical programs like WIC and SNAP. And Kasie, all of this can be fixed and resolved immediately if Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats would show up and vote yes on a clean CR like they did 13 times under Joe Biden. There is no reason for this.
One thing that Congress usually does in these instances is they pass a measure that allows troops to continue to receive their pay. Right now, that's not happening. Should House Speaker Mike Johnson bring the House back to pass a measure to pay the troops while this shutdown is going on?
Well, let's be clear. We did pass a measure to do that. House Republicans passed a clean CR 3 weeks ago.
But often there is a separate piece of legislation to pay the troops.
But Kasie, we've done that. We have passed a clean CR to keep the government funded and open, to pay our troops, to pay our Border Patrol agents, to fund critical programs like WIC and SNAP. The president and the administration may take action to make sure that our troops are funded, and I hope they do. But again, this could all be resolved immediately. Chuck Schumer could vote yes to keep the government open and funded and make sure that none of these issues that we're all concerned about become a reality. And I just think fundamentally the situation here is very straightforward. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have shifted their previous position of passing clean CRs and keeping the government funded and open because they are petrified of AOC, Zohran Mamdani, and primary challenges from the left. And they want to show them that they are standing up and fighting back against President Trump. That's what this is about. It's not about health care. Because I went and asked Hakeem Jeffries the other day, sign on to this bill.
We can show a little bit of that.
I've signed on to legislation. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's show a little bit of your exchange.
No, it's sad. It's sad. You could easily sign on to this.
You're embarrassing yourself right now.
You could sign on to this. The only embarrassment here is you.
You're an embarrassment.
You could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here. Why won't you sign on to it?
Let me ask you a question.
So I will say we're not showing the part where you get Hakeem Jeffries' finger in there, but it does show up at a certain point. I did see this and wonder, like, is this Congress or is this a schoolyard? I mean, is this the way to do it?
Well, listen, the leader has been holding press conference after press conference claiming that Republicans shut the government down. But we all know this is a Democrat-driven shutdown because they want to show their base that they are fighting against President Trump. And my point was, if there is an issue to be dealt with, like health care, then let's deal with it. Let's come to an agreement and deal with it. But you don't do it at the barrel of a gun, and you don't shut down the government to stomp your feet and pound your fist. And it's wrong.
Let me ask you where you are on the merits. I absolutely take your point, and I have, in my career covering Congress, heard plenty of Democrats tell me you don't shut the government down over policy disputes. So I absolutely take your point. The sound bites exist out in the world. But on the merits of this question around subsidies for people who are getting Obamacare plans, where are you on the substance of that? Do you think the Trump administration should be willing to take a hard look at that and to keep those subsidies in place?
Well, let's look at the facts of it, right? These subsidies were put in place during COVID by the Biden administration. They were put in place for 4 years. They are expiring at the end of this year. Premiums, obviously, without these subsidies, will go up. But that speaks to the fundamental problem with Obamacare. Since 2010, health insurance premiums have skyrocketed by over 60% increases since the implementation of Obamacare. So clearly, Obamacare is not doing what it was intended to do, which is actually to reduce the cost of health care in America. So yes, I support legislation to extend these premium tax credits by 1 year so that we can actually address the longer-term problem, which is the cost of health care in America. But my Democratic colleagues are saying permanent or bust. When you look at what they did with these premium tax credits, you have people making $600,000 a year getting subsidies from the American people to pay for health insurance. That is not fair to the vast majority of Americans who clearly don't make $600,000. So at the end of the day, to me, there's a negotiation to be had, but you don't shut the government down over it. And my point in going to Hakeem Jeffries was to say, look, you're saying this is an issue? I agree. I'm signed on to a bill, a bipartisan bill, to extend this by a year. Why won't you join me on this bill? And he had no answer. He was stuttering, he was stammering, he was yelling, he was angry. To me, it was ridiculous. I was asking him very simply, come on, join this bill. He's talking about, your boss, Trump. He's talking about you're embarrassing yourself. I was asking him a very pointed question, which is, if you're saying that this shutdown is about health care, here's a solution. Join me on it. And he wouldn't do it.
All right, Congressman Mike Lawler, I always appreciate you coming on the arena. I hope you'll come back soon.
Thank you.